Opinions expressed are those of our show host, not WSTU or Treasure Coast broadcasters. Any reproduction or reuse of this program without the express written consent of WSTU is strictly prohibited.
Dancing in the flame, the king is coming back again. So wrote the prophet John before his days were done. The king is coming and it won't be long.
And now here's Pastor Dino.
Thank you, Frank. How have you been? Well,
I am well, thank you very much.
you and I have a gift here tonight. Isn't this something?
We do.
Yeah.
We do indeed.
The Bizzle Buddy. Thank you. And you'll find out tonight where this came from.
Yes.
Mine's a little better than yours because I think as a Yankee and yours is a Tiger. I'm not sure about that. But Traven, good to see you. Traven's got a shirt on tonight that is absolutely brightened this place up. I wore an old dark shirt tonight. I feel really out of place next to him, actually. But you look so sharp tonight, Traven. Yeah, you look really great. Now, a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about some things that we have been discussing. One is going to be the prayer life of Jesus, I think, next week. And, Jesus prayed. How did he pray? We're going to talk about that. That everybody needs a father in a couple of weeks. But today we decided to continue on, Traven, with disabilities and caregiving. And I appreciate so much all the input that you've put into this program. You're the preacher's kid on this program. I'm the pastor, and I'm not sure what that means sometimes, but we're having a good time with it. But you brought another guest with us tonight. I've just met her a few minutes ago. What a delightful person. Would you introduce her? And let's get right into our program, disabilities and caregiving.
Yeah, and before I do that, thanks, Pastor. I know he commented he really likes in the old days, we men would call this a pink shirt, but today there's a better color. It's called salmon.
Yes.
And my father-in-law, he said to me years ago, I had worn a pink dress shirt, and he said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" He says, "You have a pink shirt on." I said, "Correct." He said, "Men do not wear pink shirts." I said, "Real men can wear anything they want." So I just thought I'd leave that with the audience out there that can't see me.
Exactly right.
You know.
Good answer, Traven.
So without further ado, introductions. I have my granddaughter Annabelle back with us here this evening, along with my daughter Brooke. They will be joining us here a little bit later, but I have another distinct privilege is introducing Marnie Moog, who's my personal assistant. And she, too, unfortunately, does deal with someone who has a disability. And I know it creates some challenge for her. Her mother has cerebral palsy or cerebral palsy, depending on what part of the country you're from. And Marnie can address that, too, because she's not shy, so she can correct me, and that's okay. She knows she won't offend me. But I'd like to have Marnie maybe give a summary of this particular disability, some of the challenges that she faces, some of the challenges her mother faces, obviously, dealing with this. And Marnie has a set of twins that just turned 13, right?
That's
Marnie,
correct.
two girls,
Yes,
beautiful girls, very talented, I must say. And I'd like to have her kind of talk about what that's like. She's really in that, what I call that sandwich group of people, because she's dealing with an adult parent. And also has children. But Marnie, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. So my name is Marnie. My mom was born with a birth defect, cerebral palsy, CP for short. It's a neurological thing. It's a neurological event, they say, that happens at birth, in utero, or shortly after birth. They're not really sure. They don't know what causes cerebral palsy. I mean, there's probably some determining outside factors that leave you susceptible to have a child with a birth defect. But my mom is awesome. She is capable. She worked up until the age of 63 when her job was eliminated. So she decided, okay, I guess I'm going to try and get Social Security disability. And of course, she got it. And then 2 years later, she was on Medicare. So the challenges for us are every day. My mom has lost mobility. I want to say, like in the past year and a half, it's kind of gone from okay to not that great. We make it through every day. Um, she needs help. She needs assistance with showering. Um, she can get out of bed now. She gets strong, and then she falls, or she also has diabetes, so that's also a problem with her sugar. But it's much more well maintained. We had an incident not too long ago where she had to go to the hospital because her sugar was 40.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very scary for my kids, but everything's okay. She's okay. We do the best that we can. Yeah, mobility is an issue. I have to help her with a lot of stuff. She's not confident to go into the kitchen and make a meal for herself anymore, only because she had a really bad fall in the kitchen. She fell backwards, and her head took the impact on the tile floor.
Mm.
So since then, she's lost her confidence to do that, and it's hard to kick your parent in the pants and tell them to do things. It's not like having a child where you're the parent and you get to tell them to do. So it's definitely like it's a tricky situation. Like I feel like she is like my child now. Because I am taking care of her. I make her meals, I help bathe her, and if she has an accident, I help clean that up, and I'm the caregiver.
Right.
One of the things that I would share with the group out there, when Marnie had interviewed with me, she made me fully aware that she was dealing with a parent that had, some health concerns, and she had 2 little girls. And I would tell the employers out there, so if you have someone who is dealing with these challenges, I would ask you to show some compassion and be flexible, because one of the things that I think was critically important to Marnie was that flexibility. And again, I'm not preaching to you, because we have a pastor here that can do that, but I'm just saying, show some compassion to those people who you have working with you and helping you build your companies and what have you. Give them some flexibility. So you made me think of that as a flexibility is critical, I think, with your employees.
That's really, really good advice. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Marty, when you go to work, who watches her?
My mom's on her own.
Mhm.
I check on her through the day. There's been some times where she's like, the dog knocked her lift chair, so the cord isn't plugged in, and she can't get the chair to go down. So I've had to run home to help her with stuff like that. I came home one day and she was on the floor. So like things like that happen, and sometimes I've had to just help her fall as best I can do at the time.
So do you call through the day as well home, and does she have access to a phone?
Oh,
there?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. She's got her cell phone and she's got the house phone.
One of the things you and I had talked about, and Annabelle brought this up last week in our segment, is a lot of times she will get some stares. And Marty and I talked about this, and she said, yeah, that happens to my mother also. And at some point, it can be annoying to the person who's afflicted. But Marty and I had a pretty good discussion about that. I think a lot of times people just don't understand it. So sometimes when we don't understand, we can look quite foolish because we're trying to figure it out. So we're probably trying to process it. But I don't know, Marty, if you'd like to add some color to that.
Yes, I feel like, just some solid advice. Staring back makes them very uncomfortable. They wish they didn't have eyeballs, and they look away. So.
Oh yeah, my favorite thing to do is always to say hello. And then they're like, oh my God, did she just talk to me?
Like, like I'm in a wheelchair. I'm not. I can talk.
Yeah. That's good. Now, how's this affected the girls? Because they're there, and in some ways, you're helping them. Obviously, you're their caregiver, but they're getting to an age now. Can they help at all with your mother
Oh,
and
they
help do things around the home and that type of thing?
They definitely, my girls are wonderful. They're so, so helpful. They help me with anything that I ever ask to be helped with, for one. And for two, they are, willing to go in above and beyond for my mom. When she needs help, they're more than willing to help. In fact, when I was mentioning that my mom's sugar was 40, it was one of my daughters that had gone into my mom and I came and got me and said, "You have to help me, Mom. There's something wrong with her."
Now, I know you two have a dog named Freckles, I believe.
Yes.
Now, is Freckles, because dogs are really smart, does he know, like, if something's not right
He'll
with
come
your
and get
mom?
me sometimes.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
that's
he
pretty cool.
does.
Hmm.
And my mom will say, like, sometimes when she's home during the day and she'll lay down, Freckles will come
Hmm.
and lay with her.
Very nice.
What kind of
Yeah.
a dog? What kind of a dog is Freckles?
So we're not entirely sure.
He's
No, his papers say that he's a fox terrier,
Oh.
and they only get to be like 30 pounds. Freckles is about 72 pounds.
Oh.
So we've kind of guessed that he might be an Irish Terrier mixed with something else, because when we got him when he was just a tiny, tiny little puppy, he was only a few weeks old. And when we see like other puppies, like there's this program called Too Cute where they show like kittens or puppies from birth to adoption. And we saw ones that had Irish Terriers, and we were like, I think that's Freckles.
Marnie, I had a question. Your mother, I know, had worked up until about 10 years ago. What was her job? What was her function that she did?
Oh gosh, she did several things. So when we lived in New Jersey, she worked for Mid-Atlantic Bank. She worked in a big office building for a bank. Then when we moved here, she was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? So she became a home health aide. And then she learned to be a phlebotomist.
Wow.
And then my mother worked for the health department for years and years and years. She worked out in Indiantown in the pediatrics and would take blood from the babies. And my mother has the patience of a saint. She really, really does. She's a wonderful woman.
It makes me think of our second program we did on hope, and your mom, I think, gives a lot of people hope out there that if you do have a disability, doesn't mean that you're doomed. I mean, it's a disability and you can work around that. But your mom's living proof of that because she made it happen.
Well, I should say that my grandmother really was the driving force
I'm gonna
behind my
ask you
mother's
about her.
determination and motivation. She did not, she was vigilant in getting help for my mother immediately. As soon as she knew that there was a problem, she was vigilant and determined. And she didn't give up when the doctors told her that she was crazy and that she didn't know what she was talking about. She didn't give up.
Yeah, I would have liked to meet your grandmother
Right.
because she sounded like a great lady.
Well, that
She's in
was a
heaven now.
recurring theme from last week's show about the doctors and all the work that you have to do as a patient,
Yeah.
trying to learn what the nature is of your disability and understand it.
Can be
Yes.
daunting.
Yeah.
Yes. And your father, you've spoken about him. He's no longer here, but you've spoken, what role he played, and it sounds like he and your mother had a great relationship.
Yep, they
And
sure did.
maybe talk to him and what was important with, obviously being a loving husband and father. Obviously, you and he had a great relationship based on what you've told me.
Mhm.
But also, he did a really great job because I'm in the financial planning realm, but he did a great job in really kind of helping the family unit be prepared for this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, my dad really was a thorough, very prompt, always wanted to dot the I's, cross the T's. He had a plan that if anything happened to him, that we would be okay.
Now,
Yeah.
he's former military. Is that?
Yes, he was in the Navy. He's
Yeah.
a Vietnam era veteran,
Yeah, how-
100% disabled veteran.
how
My
many-
dad was.
How many years was he in? You
Oh,
recall?
gosh, 7 or 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was
Good.
in for quite some time. Yeah, even though he wasn't going to be enlisted because he was an only child.
Sure.
I think that they stopped like enlisting
Yeah.
men that were only children,
Yeah.
for families and stuff like that.
There's something very special about a daughter and a father when that clicks.
Yeah.
And I can see it in you. You really love your dad.
Yeah.
I have a daughter, and we have a great relationship. I basically do whatever she tells me to now, but we've had some wonderful years, really.
I teased Marnie when she was interviewing. She told me she was an only child. I'm like, well, we probably should talk to the next candidate because sometimes only children could be a little selfish. That's
Yeah.
not the case with Marnie.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So, because when I'm from a big family of 8, so you're kind of forced to share. You have to learn to share.
Yeah.
And
You-
so,
Yeah.
it looks sometimes you feel like you're at a mess hall in the army.
Unwittingly, you share because
yes.
especially sometimes you have siblings that covet some of your possessions and things just disappear.
Correct.
And then
That's
you
correct.
complain to mom and dad, and they go, "This sounds like your problem."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never had those issues in
No.
our family.
Oh no.
Yeah, my mom was interesting. Someone would walk in the house and said, "Mom, he hit me." She said, "Well, go back out there and tell him to hit you again." So you didn't carry much, with her. She didn't. It's like, yeah, well, get over yourself.
That's
you
a
know?
good mother.
Right.
So, and Brooke knows this because she obviously knew my mother pretty well. So Grandma was, she was kind of old school, let's just say,
Yeah.
which
Mm.
was good,
Mm.
So I didn't know, Brooke, if you had any specific questions for Marnie, because each of you are dealing as a caregiver, if you would have any, thoughts on that.
I don't know about questions, but just comments as I'm listening to you. I know you said when you're taking care of your mom, cleaning up accidents and bathing, those things come easily to a mom when it's, they're 5, 6, or 7, right? Annabelle's now 17.
Right.
It gets to a point where like it's a little bit embarrassing for her and it's a little bit embarrassing for you, right? So like with your mom, like how does your mom deal with having to be cared for? Like Annabelle, it's a little bit easier because I am her mom, and it's just not a big deal. And I try to make it not a big deal. But for your mom, there has to be a piece of that.
Oh,
How do you deal with that? How does she deal with it?
She, she cries sometimes and says that she's like, I don't want to be a burden to you. And I'm like, Mom, I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm here. I'm here to take care of you. And then she's like, you can't take care of me. That's not why you're here. You have your children to take care of, but you're my family too, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
it's
get
that
it.
type of dialogue.
I so feel for you as I'm listening. I'm like, same. Like there are days Annabelle can't get out of bed. There are days Annabelle can't take a shower. There, and I feel it as you're talking. And I know I said it last week. It feels like when it's you're on an island, but there are so many of us. There's such a community of us. And like, I just wish there was like a big place where we could all kind of get together and share and like love and be like, oh, I'm with you and I understand you, like it would be so validating for everyone.
Yes, it would
You know?
be. I agree. That would be very validating.
That's a really good question. It really is. Because everybody's going to face that one time or another in their life. That's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It really
definitely.
is.
Yeah.
Well, Marnie, as we're approaching our break time, is there anything that you would give us in summary or any advice that you would give to us, the general public out there, as we face someone who has a disability, how we may approach them and just be aware, just maybe some good advice?
Well, I guess maybe just some life advice. Smile. None of us are going to get out alive. We might as well enjoy it while we're here. Have a good attitude. Meet the day with a smile.
That's
It's good
fantastic.
advice. Yeah.
Great advice.
I want to say to all three of you, thank you so much for being on. But as we go to the next section, what he just said, I think is important. What advice you have to give to our listeners, because it's wonderful to hear the story, and thank you for how you have shared these last 2 weeks. But what do we need to know? So maybe be thinking of that at the break, if you would.
Great. Thanks, Marnie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. And we're going to be right back. So stick with us.
Great.
And now, here's Pastor Dino from Stuart Congregational Church.
Thanks, Frank. This is a wonderful time that we're having together on disabilities and caregiving. I want to invite everybody out there to come to our church. There's some wonderful churches in our area, but come to our church, okay? It's 3110 Southeast Astor Lane. We'd love to have you come. Stuart Congregational Church has been there for years, a wonderful congregation. 10 o'clock Sunday morning, we have the celebration service. We celebrate the Lord, we sing. There's prayers, there's testimonies, there's preaching. It's a wonderful time. And then we all go to what's called the Harris Cafe, and we got all socked out with sugar, don't we, Trey? And we have a wonderful time. So please do come. We'd love to see you. And tell us that you listen to the program. 3110 Southeast Astor Lane. We are thankful with our broadcast of so many people that sponsor us. And Traven, why don't you share that, and let's get on to our second part of the program.
Yes, I want to put a shout out there to actually my CPA, one of our great sponsors, John McDonald. You know, John's one of those guys. He still wears the white shirt and all. You know, he's a true. You look up and accountant in the dictionary has his picture beside it. But yeah, John F. McDonald, CPA, great guy. He can be reached at 772-221-8882. Again, 772-221-8882. He's terrific. If you're looking for a certified public accountant, he's your man. Also, Darren Wilson. I work with Darren Wilson at Campbell Wilson Insurance Agency down in Hope Sound. Another terrific person to work with if you have needs is related to homeowners insurance, automobile insurance, probably boat insurance, ski-doos, and a number of different items out there. But you can reach Darren at 772-546-5600. Again, 772-546-5600. And then, of course, my attorney that I work with, and Marty and I have quite a bit of communication with Peggy Wood, with McCarthy Summers here, local firm that's been here, I know, for a great number of years, well respected. Again, Peggy Wood. Peggy can be reached at 772-286-1700. Again, 772-286-1700. If you need wills, trusts, anything like that, Peggy's just terrific to work with. So give her a call. And last but not least, we work with the Hollister Insurance Agency. Debbie Hollister, who I've worked with for the last 7-8 years. Her son, Daniel, and his wife, Rachel. Again, Hollister Insurance. They can be reached at 772-288-2389. Again, 772-288-2389. Debbie, Daniel, and Rachel Hollister. So if you have a need for medical insurance, reach out to them. So that's I just want to thank our sponsors again. We can't do these programs without these folks.
Terrific
So thank
people.
you.
Terrific.
Thank you. Now, I would like to now transfer. I'm checking my notes, so I apologize. Frank, and that's coming across probably on the line. But I wanted to transfer back to Annabelle and Brooke, and really kind of follow up where we left off last week. We talked about the physical aspect of a disability. We talked about how it affected family, and Marnie spoke to that a little bit earlier. But I want to talk first of all about the emotional, a little bit more about the emotional side. And I had a question for Annabelle and Brooke too, some ideas, and maybe we'll open this up to callers in the last 10 minutes of the session today. But I want to talk about, how do you develop friends, Annabelle? I mean, because you are facing a disability, and I think it's difficult sometimes for especially younger people to start to, how do I identify people that I can communicate with and really have a social life? That's why I'm interested in how you've kind of dealt with that.
Yeah, so it's really, really difficult to make friends, as you would imagine, as a teenager who isn't in school. But then also, right after I had my accident and became disabled, we moved across the country from Connecticut to Oregon. So that is another added barrier of, I don't know anyone in Oregon. But online, like social media platforms, have been really great for finding people like me who get it. I met my absolute best friend. She actually reached out to me on Instagram, and it's just so amazing to have a friend who knows what you're going through. I know we were talking about it a little bit with Marnie and my mom, how validating it is to just be around someone who has that shared experience with you. But yeah, my best friend, she has a lot of the same conditions as I do. We both use wheelchairs, we both use orthotics and forearm crutches. We are a sight to be seen out in public together. But it's so normal to be around her, you know? It's not, oh, Annabelle's so flaky, she canceled plans last minute, but it's really, I can't get out of bed. So she just gets that. And yeah, I feel like finding people like you who get it is the best way to make friends because, yeah, they just get it.
Brooke, did you want to talk about a little bit from your point of view as far as socialization?
That's a really, really tough one. I've watched Annabelle struggle with people that we knew, people in our lives before she had her concussion and before kind of like the medical drama unfolded. And a lot of them don't get it. And it's been really hard to kind of keep those people in our lives. Social media has been really it. I mean, even when we moved to Oregon and Annabelle was physically in school for the short period that she was there and tried to make friends, it was really, really hard because you come down with a migraine and people don't understand. They just think like, oh, she cancels plans all the time. When really it's like, well, a migraine to some people is, oh, I have a headache. But to Annabelle, it's debilitating. It's nasty. We're home vomiting, or maybe we're in the ER and we can't see and we can't function. Very, very, very nasty and debilitating. So social media has been the best platform. We have one or two that are really, really good, and one or two that are really, really good. That's good enough. I would take one or two really, really close friends that get it and that are true friends over a million that don't get it and that aren't true friends. So I feel lucky that she found the one or two that we have.
Yeah, I'd also open up. I thought about asking Marnie this earlier, but I know we needed, time constraints, so we wanted to move. But Marnie, what challenges have you dealt with as far as your mother? Because, she retired 10 years ago. What have you done, or what does she do to really kind of integrate back, or stay integrated into society, if you will?
My mom is a stubborn lady who just is not interested in any of that, no matter what I suggest. I mean, I could suggest a million things. She'll poo-poo them all. I don't know. I think, she feels she was teased pretty ruthlessly as a kid because she wore a brace, and kids made fun of her and told her she was a palsy victim and said horrible, horrible things to my mom. And so she has a wall.
Yeah.
She does. I think I'm the only one that, I'm her daughter. I'm her only daughter. I'm the only one that can tease her about it, I tell her that she's, oh, your little baby hand. Watch out for the baby hand.
Right. But I think it's good that you can give some a little bit of insight on that, because it tells the rest of us out there in the general world, if you will, general population, is when you see somebody like that, don't make fun of them, because it's very possible that you could be in that same position real quick in the form of some kind of an accident. Mm-hmm. And so things can happen real quickly. So you should thank your lucky stars every day that you may not be in that position, but be compassionate and be thoughtful, and see those people, reach out to them. They're people. They have a disability, but they're people. So I would think you should think about that. So.
Yeah, I think that's also like a really good segue into like the mental health piece that is being chronically ill and being a caretaker of someone chronically ill, right? Because it is so isolating.
Mm-hmm.
It is so isolating to be a caretaker, as Marnie knows, and as I know. It is so isolating to be sick.
Yes.
And, when you're a teenager and you are supposed to be, quote unquote, out with friends and doing things that teenagers do, and you can't do those things, it gets to a point where some people are kind of like, well, why am I here? We have dealt with those things in our house. We have definitely dealt with those conversations in our house. They're hard conversations to have. It's a very important topic to talk about. And I think at some point in the future, you're going to have a show on
We are.
anxiety and mental health, but
That's
you know,
right.
depression.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I don't know if you know, but September is Suicide Prevention Month. I want everyone to know that there's help out there if you need it, and it's an important, tough subject to talk about. If we didn't talk about it in my house, Annabelle wouldn't be on the radio with us today, I will say.
Yeah.
And please, please, please talk about it. Ask for help. If you're in crisis, call or text 988.
988.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
It's
988.
wonderful.
That's really good advice. Very good.
Is there any particular organization that you've used as a resource for that?
American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, so afsp.org. So the girls and I, Amelia, Annabelle, and I, and my husband Steve, all did a walk and raised money last year at the University of Oregon, where my older daughter is at school. They raise awareness, they raise money, they raise resources, and they do research to prevent suicide. So they're doing research on why people feel this way, why people think this way, and how to keep people from taking their own lives. So I will tell you, when we were in the space with hundreds of other people, and the question was asked, how many people have had suicide affect their family? Like, I got chills seeing how many people raised their hand because they had a family member, a friend, or themselves have thought about taking their own life. Like, it was daunting to be a part of. It's very, very important. So have the conversation. afsp.org if you want to donate. Again, call or text 988 if you yourself are in crisis.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Yeah, Frank, it might be good here if we don't have a lot of time, but if there's some callers that want to call in and ask some questions.
Sure.
It's 220-WSTU, right?
That's right. 220-9788.
Yeah.
And if
So-
you're calling from out of town, it's 772-220-9788.
Yeah, so call in if you'd like. We didn't think we'd have enough time for questions. Maybe we don't, but
Yeah.
this has
We'll
been
try
so
to fit
good.
them in if we can.
Yeah,
Sure.
so good. Yeah. What is there one other piece of advice? If you had one thing, all three of you can do it quickly because we're coming to a break here. What is that one piece of advice you would say that's really important? Who wants to go first?
I have it right on the top of my head. So
Okay.
while you're thinking, I'm going to say take one day at a time. So every day is a new challenge, but just think about what is happening in that day. If you get one thing done, great. If you get 100 things done, great. Whatever happens today is enough. Don't think about the million things you have going on and ahead of you, because it'll be overwhelming.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And that's true for all of us. I mean,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
some, as a business owner and, family guy and involved in the community, and you get overwhelmed sometimes with so many activities. And sometimes I would say, okay, I'm just going to do just this one thing. And if I get that done, I'll do another one thing. And before you know it, you get a bunch of things done, but you don't see it as one big mess of things you got to get done. So, yeah, and that's true for all of us. But yeah.
Great, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember one time in some of my management training, they said if you can get 7 things done each day,
Yeah.
you've accomplished a great deal.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, that may be getting up, if they're dealing
Yeah,
with a disability,
sure,
right?
Sure, of course.
Getting in a shower, right?
Mhm.
Feeding oneself. But, so that's good advice. So if you can get 7 things accomplished in a day, that's good.
Right
That's a
on.
good thing.
Right.
Annabelle, did you have a comment?
Yeah. I wanted to say you are not your disability, but there's also nothing wrong with identifying as your disability. If that's the place that you're at. I've had so many people tell me, don't categorize yourself as disabled. Don't say, oh, I'm disabled. Not, oh, I'm Annabelle and I have a disability. But honestly, my best friend has the same disability as me, and it has been the most validating and liberating thing throughout my journey with being disabled.
Terrific.
And how old is she?
She's 17 as well. She's just 6 months younger than me. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Is that the social media connection?
Yeah.
Yeah. She had reached out to me through an Instagram page that I run where I document my journey.
Marnie?
Yes. I think just being kind to yourself and just extending kindness to other people.
Hmm.
I mean, we never know what somebody's going through. I mean, suicide prevention, bringing that up is a big deal, like people mask that. So kindness goes a long way.
Are we at break time, Frank, or how we doing?
We've got about 3 minutes, Pastor.
Okay. Yeah,
What-
you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of things I want to talk about real quick is there's a couple organizations that Brooke and Annabelle have worked with and communicate with, and there's some organizations that you can research and also donate. So this will help in these causes. One is the FND Hope, it's functional neurological disorder. Again, FND. It's called FND Hope. Check out their website, and you can make a donation there. The Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is EDS, you'll hear us call it EDS. And it's spelled EHLERS-DANLOS. That's a mouthful. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And then the other thing is there's another site, it's called Stand Up to POTS, and POTS is postural
Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Thank you. I'm glad she has said this before.
Yes.
Thank you. So those are three, I think, pretty terrific organizations that if you want to help, if you want to give back, please consider those organizations. And I do want to talk after the break
Mhm.
about another item, and then Brooke and I'll probably talk about that and maybe take callers.
Great. Okay. Well, right on time. And we're going to take this as our regulation timeout. We'll take a 2-minute warning and we'll be right back. So stick with us. All right, we're back. And now back to Traven Sexton.
Yeah, Frank, thanks again. And one of the things that we had covered last week, and Brooke can speak a little bit more to it, and along with some other things, but one of the things that a family deals with, obviously, is the financial burden of going through this type of a thing. And we've gotten to a point where we made the decision to set up a GoFundMe page. And for those people out there that have interest in making a donation, you can go to GoFundMe.com, and if you just type in Brooke, Amelia, and Annabelle, it should bring up a site there that you can make a contribution. We're trying to raise roughly $30,000. We just established this today. My daughter-in-law, Laura Sexton, she took this project upon herself. She suggested this, and we kind of pushed her off, but we thought about it and we said, yeah, this probably does make sense, but this is to help Brooke and the family handle some of these medical bills because they got a couple trips that they have to take to Utah and possibly to Providence, and hopefully that takes care of it. But we've got a lot of bills there that are going to be upcoming. But again, GoFundMe and just type in Brooke, Amelia, and Annabelle, or type in Laura Sexton, and that should bring up this GoFundMe page. And again, any contribution you make is greatly appreciated. There's no amount too small, so anything you can do, we greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to turn this back to Brooke and have her talk maybe about the financial burden or give more clarity, but also she wanted to make some comments related to FND.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment a little bit on functional neurological disorder, only because that was one of the organizations that was mentioned, but it dawned on me in the millions of things that we've talked about in the last episode and today, we never mentioned what FND is. FND is another one of the diagnoses that Annabelle has gained in the last couple years, and it renders people sometimes completely disabled. So over the journey of our illness in the last couple years, Annabelle started having non-epileptic seizures randomly. One night when I was driving home with her in the car, she had a full-blown seizure as a passenger in the car, which was super duper scary. And then it took her mobility, so she became completely paralyzed from FND. She lost the ability to swallow, so she had a feeding tube. She went completely blind from FND. So this is a really a difficult illness to deal with. All of those functional symptoms do not have a cure, and so FND Hope has been paramount in helping Annabelle get better. We found a doctor there on a whim through Instagram, who was doing research and education, and her name is Yadira, and she's amazing. And I literally sent a message on a whim because I didn't know what else to do. I just knew in my heart that the doctors that we were looking at were not going to help. I just knew it as a mom. And Yadira, she just helped so incredibly. So for those of you like, what FND Hope, what are we talking about? That's what FND is all about. And FND Hope is doing the research to help those people who are dealing with FND. Also, Annabelle recently was asked to be part of a documentary that a local filmmaker in Oregon, his name is Justin, he was making a documentary about FND because he also has FND and he has a film company. He documented Annabelle and another woman, her name is Jess. It's going to be, that film is going to be submitted to film festivals in the area. It won't be coming out until I think next January, February timeframe. It's about 10 minutes. It's fascinating. It's a tearjerker. If you're interested in seeing it, because it's not going to release for a while, I am certain that Annabelle will release it on her Instagram at Living with Annabelle. 2 A's, 2 N's, 2 L's, 2 E's, 1 B, Annabelle. It took me a minute. The brain fog is real today. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about that.
No, and they're out. This is interesting. They're in Salmon, Idaho. You know, so they must have known that my shirt exists.
Oh, yes, there it is.
So-
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
FND Hope.
Open
Sure,
it.
sure
Yeah.
is meaning.
Has meaning. Yes. I didn't know if anyone else had any comments or questions.
Could you give that GoFundMe again information?
Yes. Yeah. So it's the GoFundMe page. Oh, let me pull that up real quick. GoFundMe page again was you can donate to Brooke, Amelia, and Annabelle. Again, go to the GoFundMe page and just type in Brooke, Amelia, and Annabelle, and it should take you there to their page. And again, we appreciate any donations that you can find it in your heart to give. So we appreciate it.
I want to just say here, thank all of you for coming on. This has been so helpful, so informative. It's touched our hearts. I want to especially thank you, Annabelle. You're a beautiful young lady, and God has great things in store for you, I
Right.
believe. And thank you for this gift. This is so nice.
Right.
It's very, very nice. And I also want to encourage you to know that we pray for you at our church. You're going to be regularly prayed for, okay?
Thank you.
And in fact, for all of you, we will pray for you. But I want you to know you're very special, that we'll be praying for you. And I want to encourage you with what we talked about last week to keep up in the business. It sounds like you got a business mind, and get information out about what you're making and what you're doing, and make sure I'm on your mailing list. And I mean that because we have, I'd have a bunch of these I can give away to some of my grandbabies. And so I mean that when I say that. Get me on your mailing list as well. But thank you, Mamre. Thank you for
Yeah,
being
minus the Yankee
you.
logo. though.
Annabelle put
I'm
together.
just
We'll
saying.
talk later, Annabelle. We'll talk later about that. All right.
Annabelle put together a picture of all of her all the animals that she has created, and she's going to. I'm going to take it to Brenda actually at the church, and Brenda's going to put it in the appropriate spot. And so we're going to at least market those to people within our church. And because we have another number of people that have asked me about Annabelle and asked about her site, and they said, I want to see her work. I want to see her work. I said, okay, we're going to have to bring in, pictures of these things so you can see them.
What is you have a web page, right? What is it?
I do not. So
Okay.
funny story, Etsy won't let people under 18 start a Etsy shop. So I am limited currently. I only have an Instagram, but my Instagram is Bizzle Buddies. So BIZZLE dot and then buddies. I also have a Facebook page and an email on there. But yeah, no like official store right now until I turn 18 in February.
Mhm. And Mamre, I want to say to you as well, my sister has a similar situation with a daughter she has. And it's been, the daughter now is 50 years old, which is amazing. They expect her to live about 30 years, and she's now 50. But your story so resonated with me about listening to that and what you're going through with Mom. And
Yeah.
my mother lived with us for a number of years. And the last 2 years were very much what you described.
Yeah.
And my dear wife really was the caregiver because I was on the road so much.
Mhm.
And that was special. And my wife has had 21 years of cancer.
Wow.
And she keeps on going on. It's amazing. So I really connected with what you were saying tonight and understood. And same with the both of you the last 2 weeks. Very, very special. Traven, thank you for bringing them here, my friend.
Absolutely.
You've got,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
how many relatives you got like this out there?
I tell you, a lot of them. Some of them we probably wouldn't want to bring into the studio, but and Burke knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they may sing you to
You may not
death
want to go
or,
there,
you know,
Traven.
right?
I know what you're talking about.
We better talk about your shirt again.
This is what we're talking about, and this is an inside joke, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. No, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a million relatives, and they're great. But I think I'm with you, Pastor Dino. Like I think everyone is going through something.
Mm.
You know, everyone's going through it. Like life is not easy, and I recognize that we are not the only ones.
Mm.
I feel privileged to be here with you and with Frank and with my dad to share our story and in some way give hope to other people going through it.
Mm.
And I feel just lucky to be able to kind of be part of the solution and share resources and let people know kind of what's out there. But I recognize like we are not the only ones. There are a million Annabelles and Brooks and Amelias, and there are probably a million Marnies, and everyone's going through something. And so, be kind, like Marnie said. And
Yeah, I would say to all three of you, and I don't really have the platform to even to say this, but I'll say it to you, that you have a story. Tell your story. Tell it. People need to hear your story, not just for sympathy, but to hear your story. And the Bible speaks about the goodness of God. God is good, and the Psalms have passage after passage about the goodness of God. And often, as we go through the traumas of life, we don't think of God being good, but the fact is, I see here three people that have really given a lot of hope to a lot of people these last hours, and we thank you for that. You've given a lot of advice that we need to hear. Smiling at people, that type of thing seems so simple. It seems so normal, and yet it makes the difference with people's lives. And so I am deeply thankful that you've told the story these last 2 weeks. And I encourage you to continue to tell your story and share your story and tell about what's happening and, what are the challenges, what are the pitfalls, and what are the blessings that come our way, because this is really where life is at. This is life where you really live it. many times when we go to church, we say to each other, "How you doing?" "Oh, we're doing good." And then we should say, "Well, how you really doing?"
Yes.
Because that's where we really get some answers. We say we're doing good because we don't want to get into it. We don't want to start something and get into something. But I think family is so important. Raven, you got a beautiful family here. I think that there's the family of God. That's such a special place. That's what a church is about, the family of God. At our church, you'll find so many people that love one another and care for one another, and there's a real sense of giving to one another there. We had a lady, just a dear lady I saw Sunday. She gave me a bag of cookies to take home with me. Monday, she broke her hip. And so, so Tuesday, she is inundated with people from the church as a family to her. So I really encourage you, my dear friends, to keep telling your story.
Yeah, just to close this out, again, I want to thank Annabelle and Brooke and Maureen for coming in, and I'll leave this with the radio audience out there. Brooke had mentioned depression. I just want you to know I've been depressed for 55 years because I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. And I know Frank's a Detroit Lions
Well,
fan.
you're hot tonight. You start with a shirt and you end with a Browns.
We have some things to share, Frank. We're at least depressed over some of our sports teams, okay? Just saying.
He comes in with that shirt again. We better watch out for him.
Thanks again. We'll be back next week, same time.
King is coming, and it won't be long.